I am victorious. I have completed the Read What You Own challenge for the 4th year. Hello, welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and this is my victory announcement over the Read What You Own 4th year challenge. Just before getting ready to film, I noticed that Criminali, the original creator of the Read What You Own challenge, has thrown in the towel for the 4th year and is not going to finish his challenge. He's at like 66 or 67 books completed. But me, I finished. I read 25,000 pages of books that I already own before buying another book. Now, the 25,000 page is an addition for this 4th year. It used to be just a number of books participants had to read before finishing the challenge. We changed things up because over the years, I noticed that I was migrating to reading some very short books in order to finish my challenge quicker. But you know, I do like reading longer books, but I still wanted to compete in this challenge this year, which is why we changed up the rules a little bit. Some people are doing book count challenges, like Ollie. He was doing 100 books he had to read before buying another book. I did the page count challenge, and that is done. And every year I have to mention that there is satisfaction in finishing a challenge like this, because I do have a problem with buying more books that I can possibly read, whether they be print books, digital books, or audio books. So these challenges help me focus on reading the books that I already own. And once I'm done, there's this immense feeling of satisfaction. It's like running a marathon and crossing over that finish line. Because reading 25,000 pages is a lot. Even for a retired man like myself, it takes a while to get done. I started this challenge on Monday, November 6th. I finished on Friday, March 14th. And forgive me if I keep looking to the side because I have all my statistics on my laptop. And I read a total of 25,304 pages. There was a little bit of a snafu because I had been tracking my pages in Excel, and there was a fat finger last month where I didn't count a book. So I probably would have read a little bit less, but I only noticed that on going over my statistics. But still, I finished 25,304 pages. So get a fork and stick it in me because I am done. I'm going to be going over some statistics on what actually I read and its range, because that might be interesting to some people. But here again, I'm going to talk about the satisfaction of these challenges. Not everyone needs to do a 100 book challenge or a 25,000 page challenge, because in reality, that's a lot of books and that's a lot of pages. Many people are still working. Many people do not read so fast. So I will leave a link to my original announcement video that gives all the rules for this challenge in case you are interested. You do not have to start this challenge at any specific time. It's become tradition to start it on the first Monday of November with Criminali, but you can do this at any time. You can set any number of books you want to set, or any number of pages you want to set. You can even have some exceptions. There were some exceptions to my book buying, such as if I needed to buy a book for a book group that I was in. because I can't predict those beforehand. But what happens is I don't count those books towards my page challenge. They're just pages I read, but they don't help me finish. So what did I actually read? I read 9,093 pages of audiobooks. I guess some people will say that I listened to 9,093 pages of audiobooks, but since I buy my audiobooks, they count towards the challenge. The audiobook that I listened to from a library for the book group did not count in those pages. I read 8,672 pages of digital books and 7,393 pages of print books. That comes to 36% for audio, 34% for digital, and 30% for print. So pretty equal amongst those three formats. The category of books that I read a freaking lot of novels. 21,484 pages of novels. 2,166 pages of nonfiction. 789 pages of graphic novels. Some people may quibble about whether a graphic novel is reading, but if I own the book, I count it as reading. I read 734 pages of short stories. Yay me, because I like reading short stories. In previous challenges, they wouldn't have counted because they're not books. But in a page count challenge, I'm able to read short stories, and I really do like reading short stories. And then there was 131 pages of plays or drama. And that comes to 85% for novels, 9% for nonfiction, 3% for graphic novels, 3% for short stories, and a measly 1% for drama. I really need to pick up on my nonfiction reading later on this year. I used to be a judge for the Book 2 prize in the nonfiction category, but I didn't join this year, so I'm a little short on my nonfiction reading. I was also tracking the nationality of the authors that I read. 13,077 pages came from authors in the United States. 6,107 from the United Kingdom, or should I say, England. 1,146 pages from Russia. 959 pages from France. Now, there are a number of other countries that I read. I read a total of 16 nationalities, but I'm not going to get down to the minutiae of each nationality. But it comes to 52% for the United States, 24% for England, 5% for Russia, and 4% from France. I also read a lot of different genres. Instead of calling something literary fiction or contemporary fiction, I've come up with a genre that I'm just classifying as mainstream. It just means that it's a piece of fiction that does not fit into one of the other established genres. And I read mainstream, 6,777 pages. Mystery, 5,052 pages. Horror, 4,932 pages. Fantasy, 2,734 pages. Science fiction, 2,192 pages. And historical fiction, 1,451 pages. I'm just going to read off the other genres that I read, not their page count. I read science books, biography, memoir, history, and just a little bit of philosophy. It was an essay, 19 pages. But that comes to 27% for mainstream, 20% for mystery, 19% for horror, 11% from fantasy, 9% for science fiction, and 6% for historical fiction. I'm actually surprised that fantasy beat science fiction because normally I read more science fiction, and I read more science fiction books, but I read a couple fantasy books which were really long, over 1,000 pages, and that sort of bumped up that percentage. Authors. I read a total of 71 authors for this challenge. I am only going to list the authors for which I read more than 500 pages. Stephen King comes out at 1,904 pages. I only read 2 Stephen King books, but one of them was It, that comes in at 1,186 pages. That is one ginormous novel. Brian Lee Durfee comes in at 1,088 pages. He is the fantasy author. Thomas Pynchon, 1,085 pages. Fyodor Dostoevsky comes in at 937 pages. Adam Neville, 935 pages. Marcel Proust, 740 pages. Nicholas Shakespeare, 695 pages. That's just one book. It's a biography of Ian Fleming. Philip Jose Farmer, 695 pages. Joe Nisbo, 626 pages. Dan Simmons at 624 pages. F. Paul Wilson comes in at 590 pages. And R. F. Kuang comes in at 557 pages. Now, as a percentage, Stephen King got 16% of my challenge. Brian Lee Durfee, 9%. 9% for Thomas Pynchon, 8% for Fyodor Dostoevsky, 8% for Adam Neville, and 7% for Greg Iles. You kind of get the picture. A lot of these authors only had one book, such as Greg Iles, that was Not Just Burning, but was 816 pages long, so it did take up quite a chunk of my entire challenge. And those are my statistics of this challenge. I will participate again next year because it really tempers down my book buying. But since I finished this challenge on Friday, the book buying has already begun. Now, some of these books could have qualified as exceptions, such as I bought a biography of Bertrand Russell for People April. And one of my exceptions is that if it's for a YouTube group, a book group, you're allowed to buy the book. It just wouldn't have counted towards my challenge if the challenge had still been going on. Now, I did buy one novel which would not have counted for any challenge, but that's because I'm really enjoying a book I'm reading by this author right now, and I just had to go out and buy another book by that author. And this is Monday afternoon, and on Tuesday morning, I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to drive 50 minutes to a used bookstore and see what I can find. This used bookstore can be hit or it can be missed. Sometimes I've gone there and barely eked out 1 or 2 books. In those cases, I kind of forcing myself to buy something because I drove 50 minutes to get there. Other times, I've come out with like 20 books from this used bookstore. As I said, hit or miss. I don't know what Tuesday is going to provide. But my challenge is done. I can buy books again. Thank you so much for watching, and keep on reading.